Hey folks, how you doing? Hopefully we're all having a great day today. This is my outdoor kitchen. Kinda. It's not really an outdoor kitchen yet, but I contracted out the concrete and the structure so I could go ahead and get it done, and I can start in on all of the other little details that will follow. Unfortunately, the structure is not done due to 2021 shipping delays and material shortages and all that good 2021 stuff. But as soon as it's done, I get to do electrical, plumbing, lighting, some sunshades on the back side, kind of decorate it the way our family wants it decorated, whatever. We're gonna have a grill, a griddle, a smoker, because yay for cooking outside. I love it. And a bar, three-sided bar system, a different upgraded table, but all that is work to be done. It's not the subject of this video. The subject of this video is this quadrant right here. We wanted to get this done and enjoy it immediately. I know that all this other stuff is going to take time, but what can we do to enjoy it immediately? Insert the fire pit. This is a Brio Firepit, and this project is in collaboration with Brio. They provided this for me to make some amazing memories with my family, which we've already done. I've had this for about 3 weeks now, and we've been thoroughly enjoying this fire pit. The focus of this video though is to make some upgraded seating, because as you can see, we don't really have anything great, and there's a school bus going by. Why is there always something large diesel powered driving by when I'm trying to record? Let's make some seats. This particular bench is literally what started my business. I made a series of these benches back in 2011, 2012, started selling them, and that was literally the launch of my business. This one is from 2011 as well, and it's partially rotted out on one of the feet. So I don't know if you can see it, but it's twisting quite a bit because this foot's rotted out. I don't want to replace this. Kind of got some sentimental value, and then other than that limp foot that it has, it is still working out just fine. So we're going to keep this, and if you're interested in making one of these benches, I've got a free set of plans. I've had them for many, many years on my website, where you can make this out of just a few 2x4s. I think it's like 7 or 8 2x4s. I'll put it on the screen if I'm wrong. But this is going to stay, and I'm not even going to fix that foot just because it's the oldie one, right? It's the old trusty. We're going to keep this. Next up, I do want to make some nesting chairs. On my table, I have 4 nesting chairs. 3 of them are in their nested state over there, and this one is obviously in the chair state. So if you're not familiar with this concept, people have been making nesting chairs for decades, centuries. Who knows when the original nesting chair was made? This concept is not unique to me. This design is my interpretation of it. So what I think is unique and interesting about this exact chair is the side pieces. So there's 2 sides to the seat frame. There's 2 sides to the back frame. And basically I have a template for the back and a template for the seat. When you pattern route these templates out, you're creating an exact one-to-one copy of the template. So all of the work is done. There's no like artistic shaping or anything that you have to do. You can get the exact same results every single time, and that's really, really cool. That's one of the benefits of pattern routing. So if you're not familiar with this design, the seat fits into the back with gravity. It just holds it in place. There's no mechanical fasteners here. So when you're done with this chair, which is very comfortable by the way, the seat has like a nice curve going forward, and the back has a nice curve going up. It's a slightly relaxed, slightly reclined position that is very comfortable, and it sits low enough to the ground where you don't really need armrests. You can very easily reach down and put a cup on the floor next to you. I really, really like this design. So when you're done using the chair, the seat comes right out of the back. Kind of hard to do because I'm short and this table's a little bit tall for this. And then the seat slats, or the seat assembly, fits right into the back assembly. And then from there, you can just grab the back, and you just hold the back and move it as needed. You can store them up against the wall. You can hang them up if you want. You can put them on a shelf. And then when the time comes to use the chair, the seat assembly comes out, goes right back in through these 2 slats. There you go. You have a nice comfortable chair ready to go. These can handle a lot of weight. I put 400 pounds on a 3/4 inch pine plywood version. This is 3/4 inch hardwood, so obviously this can hold 400 plus pounds per chair. These are pretty darn strong. Before I show you how I made mine, let me show you 3 different options that I have if you're interested in making one yourself. I have a free set of plans available on my website for the assembly, basically assembly instructions, and it'll give you an idea of how much material that you need. As far as the exact template goes, I've got 3 options for the template, and that kind of boils down to whether or not you prefer to buy or build a router table. Some people just like to buy a router table and get to work. Some people want to build a router table to save as much money as possible. So to accommodate everybody involved in that, I have first MDF templates available on my website. These are 3/4 inch MDF that I've cut out on my CNC machine. Fantastic machine for prototyping. But the MDF templates I have available for sale are laser cut 1/4 inch MDF, and you need 2 templates, one for the side, or one for the seat, one for the back. And they come in 4 pieces. They are dovetailed together, so you click them together like a puzzle, put tape over both sides, and you're good to go. My suggestion for anybody who has an MDF template, or whether you make your own template, is to take the original and create a working template from it. Take the original and then put it away. Archive it somewhere else that's safe and not going to get damaged. That way you build all of your pieces from the working template, and if something happens to it, you always have the original to make another one. It kind of protects your investment a little bit. So if you'd like to purchase them, I have them available on my website. Price just went down on them because the order fulfillment team that I go through reached a shipping milestone to where their shipping was drastically reduced. We passed those savings along, so less expensive on my website than they have been. The second option is something that I've been meaning to get around to for literally 2 years and finally have gotten around to it, and that is a 1-to-1 printable template that you can print on regular letter size paper. So what you'll end up with is a template just like this. You cut this out and you stick it to a piece of wood and drill the holes as necessary for the inside radius, cut it out, sand it down however you want to get it down to the line, and then you have your own template that you created. You just printed it off basically. So these first come in obviously letter size paper that you print off. The first thing you need to do is check the scale. I have a scale across the top and across one of the sides. Put a ruler up to that, make sure that those numbers are exact the way that they should be, and if they're not, your printer is doing some type of scaling. This needs to be printed on a 1-to-1 print. After you verified that, cut the border off on all the pieces and then stick the paper up to a light source, like a window. And then you line up the crosshairs, tape the pieces together, and what you end up with, like I said, is a big piece of template like this. Then you can make your own on whatever material you want to make it on. That's option number 2. Option number 3 is if you have a CNC that can cut, I think 36 inches or so, then I have the CNC files available as well. With that said, let me show you how I made them. What you see here is 50 board feet of walnut lumber, rough sawn walnut, and I think this was like number 2 walnut. There's a bunch of knots and defects here and there that I had to work around. So step 1 was to use the templates to mark out with chalk where I wanted to make my first cross cuts on this material. Then all the pieces were cross-cut and then jointed and planed and jointed and planed and jointed and planed, and I felt like I was at the joiner and planer a ridiculous amount of time with this project. That was by far the most time-consuming station in the workflow. So here's one suggestion. If you're just making 1 or 2 chairs, maybe a small set of 4, it's probably going to be more beneficial to buy rough sawn lumber and use a jointer and planer if you have one. But if you plan on taking this design and batching out a tremendous amount of them, doing a massive production run, jointing and planing, milling is going to be your most time-consuming part. So consider the time invested. It may be more beneficial to buy already surfaced material for this particular project. I used the CNC machine to cut out all of my frame pieces just because it's the most convenient tool that I have at my disposal. But it's not a snap your fingers and poof, you have a magic piece of wood that's already done. This process actually took 51 minutes to cut out all of my pieces, which I think is still pretty quick, but it wasn't a snap your fingers and it's all done type of a process. Every rectangular piece of wood that I put on the CNC machine, I had to measure the rectangle, create a rectangle in V-carve, grab the vector or grab the template, center it on that rectangle, create a new cut file, and actually cut that piece out. Now, most of the pieces were just that simple, but some of them did have a few knots that I had to work around. I had to rotate the template just slightly, move it off to one side. I had to avoid those knots. So 51 minutes to cut all this out, but I was active and moving the entire time. With the frame pieces basically done, I switched gears to the slats, and all of the remaining stock that I had for the slats, I cross-cut to about 1 inch longer than necessary, and then jointed and planed, and jointed and planed, and jointed and planed. Once again, a lot of jointing and planing, and then ripped all of my pieces to the exact width that I need. Now I'm building 4 chairs. Each chair takes 15 slats, so that means I needed 60 slats. That's a lot of ripping, that's a lot of repetition. I was in factory mode this particular day. After getting all of the 60 pieces cut, then they are ripped, I should say. Then I went to the crosscut station, the miter saw, and cross-cut both ends of every board. So 60 pieces, that's 120 cross-cuts. Then we went to the router table to put a roundover on all of the seat slats. 4 edges, 60 slats, that's 240 roundovers over and over and over again. Just be mindful that when you start to do these mundane tasks where you're just in production mode, that's oftentimes where your mind wanders. You may slip up on safety a little bit, so just be mindful of being present with what you're doing. After all the slats were done, I finished day 1 by removing all of the tabs on the frames by using a flush trim bit at the router table. Now there wasn't that many tabs, it was 4 on the seat frames and then 5 on the back frames. This is a good natural break in the project to introduce the Brio Firepit. Brio, if you're not familiar with the company, they make smokeless fire pits. Smoke is mainly caused by 2 things. Number 1, a lack of oxygen, and number 2, a lack of heat. Brio fire pits are built to drastically increase oxygen levels in the combustion area by a specifically designed raised air vent on the bottom and a double wall construction that forces heated air around the rim for a secondary combustion. And there's 4 factors that I had, or 4 criteria that I had when searching for a fire pit, and the Brio X30 that I have checks all of those boxes. Number 1, long-lasting and durable. This thing is made out of thicker steel than its competitors. It's made to live outside. You don't have to baby it. And one fun, interesting thing that I found is this particular one has a 5-year warranty on not only the manufacturer defects, if there are any, but also for normal wear and tear, normal actual use. Some of the competitors advertise a lifetime warranty, but if you read the fine print, that lifetime warranty only covers the manufacturer defects. It does not cover normal wear and tear and actual use. So there's that. This is made to live outside. You don't have to baby it. That's something that I really, really like. Number 2, it's made in the USA versus made in China. That kind of speaks for itself. Number 3, this is versatile. You have a bunch of cooking options with it. I got the sear plate, I have the grill grate, and I have the, I believe it's a 2-gallon kettle, or a 2-gallon cast iron pot that I can hang from the top. And we are really looking forward, we haven't used that specific feature, but we are really looking forward to making some chili on a cold night. That's going to be, or cold day, that's going to be a lot of fun. And number 4, the most important thing to me is I wanted something to create a reliable, fun experience. Going back to the long-lasting and durable, the stamped steel, cheap, inexpensive fire pits that you can get at like the home centers, yeah, you can create a fun little experience, but it's not reliable. They don't last. And sometimes you can create a fun experience. You're getting smoke blown in your face all the time. So this is something that will create a reliable experience. And since we've had it, my daughter every single night, she's 3 years old, has come to me before bed asking if we can sit by the fire. That is so awesome and so much fun. It is really cool in the digital world that we live in to be able to turn everything off, sit on the back porch, listen to the crackling of a fire, and stare up at a clear sky. It is an experience that is just really, really awesome. If you're interested in more information, go to Brio.com, and if you use Facebook, check out the Facebook Owners Group. There's a lot of real-life experience and information on that Facebook group. Thank you to Brio for helping create a lot of really fun memories for me and my family. Day 2 starts by sanding the frames, and I'm only going up to a 150 grit with this. I don't want to go to a crazy low grit because I don't want that to, somewhat burnish or close off the pores. I want to have 150 grit is just fine. I want to have the pores still available to soak up the oil finish that I'm going to apply. Back to the router table for the final round over on all of the frame pieces, not in the areas where the seat slats will go. I want to leave those nice and flat. Everything else that you're going to touch and interact, all of that gets a 1/4 inch round over. Then the assembly begins, starting with the back frames, and due to the geometry of the frames, assembly should be pretty darn easy. Everything has a location, you just put it in place and secure it. So the assembly starts with the back frames, clamping 2 slats in place with a 1/4 inch overhang. That'll kind of make the structure rigid while you drill and secure the rest of the slats. So you do want to drill pilot holes for these. You don't want to split the wood, especially not in hardwood. And when you get to the ends, the top of the back and the front of the seat, it's a good idea to kind of angle the drill a little bit towards the meat of those frame components instead of just drilling perpendicular to the surface of the slats. Then the slats are pulled back off, a little bit of glue is added, a little bit. You don't want to go crazy with the glue because glue squeeze out on a project like this where there's a bunch of slats involved, it's really annoying. So just a little bit of glue, and then the screws hold everything in place. Once the back assembly is done, then the seat assembly is done the exact same way, but you have to position the seat frames inside the back frames in their nested state, but space them out from the back frames by about a 1/16 of an inch. Just find something that you have 4 of that is the exact same thickness and use those as spacers. The exact thickness isn't too critical. I chose these toothpick Q-tip looking cleaner things because the shaft of the wood that I was actually using to space out is about 1/16 of an inch. That'll give me about 1/8 of an inch of wiggle room as I try to nest these chairs. I think 1/16 of an inch is a really good number to space on both sides. Drill bits, if you have 4 of the same size drill bits, that's a good choice for spacing. Day 2 ended by my wife applying an oil wax finish. Very, very nice of her. Thank you to my lovely wife. While I wiped it all off. This is an eco-friendly oil wax mix. It's probably not the most durable outdoor finish, but these chairs aren't meant to be left out in the rain. We'll pull them out and use them, and when they're not in use, we will store them away. Here we are on day 3 shooting the intro and outro, and some of you who are familiar with this design may notice something missing, and that is this little brace or this extra slat on the bottom back of the seat frame. So let me pull this one out and I'll show you. See, my initial design for this project called for a captured slat to go into these holes right here. You see that? And connect these two on the back side of the seat assembly for additional bracing. But I've always wondered, is that necessary? So I went ahead and cut it out on mine, but what I'm going to do is I have all the slats ready to go, but I'm going to roll with it for a little while and not have them in there because I've always wondered, is it necessary? Like I said, if 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, if at a later date I realize that this is creating too much wiggle, I can clamp a piece of material here to stiffen it, and I notice the difference of it being stiffened, at that point, I'll add them in there and leave this as a design element. But if in 2-3 weeks, however long, I realize there's no problem with not including that in there, then I can update the original design to remove that, because this is actually the hardest part of this design, making sure you get a slat that it fits the geometry perfectly to fit in there, and then getting it through both sides, flush trimming it, pinning it with a screw on the bottom. It's not incredibly difficult, but on a project that's overall really easy, it's the most difficult thing. So if we can remove that, it'll make the design even easier. So that's my objective, to actually put these to use and do some testing and R&D, you know, sit back and relax, the hard stuff, right? And see if it's actually necessary. Now all that's left to do is put these on the patio and enjoy them. Later on that night, we had a couple of our friends over, and we got nothing but compliments on the fire pit as well as the chairs. So it's a nice, fun experience sitting out there, and we got some confirmation by people who haven't been enjoying it every night like we have. So that's really, really good. Also, you may notice that the bench is no longer on this area, and that's because my wife vetoed my idea. She said these chairs look too nice compared to that bench, or maybe the bench just doesn't look good enough compared to these chairs, whichever you want to call it. So she vetoed it. It's out of there. and now she wants a slab bench to replace it. I've got a nice slab, so I think that's what I'm going to make next. Anyway, you guys take care. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.